Smile and Smile 2 are psychological supernatural horror films that were directed by Parker Finn. And of course, we are continuing our horror marathon for this year with these two great films. But the question we are answering today is which of these two is the better film? Let me start by saying that I had an absolute blast watching these two films. I thought that they were great. I felt like the cast was strong. I felt like there were great plot twists, jump scares. Of course, we're going to talk about it here in a bit. The first Smile follows a therapist named Rose Cotter, who is played by Sosie Bacon. Smile 2, on the other hand, follows the famous pop star Sky Riley, who's played by Naomi Scott. Both of these actresses played a phenomenal role. They did a great job. Again, the cast was amazing. Now, if we are going to compare both of these films, I think it's important to start off with their similarities. In both films, you feel the tension as you watch Rose or Sky spiral into insanity. You feel their frustration, you feel their fear, you feel how they basically feel alone. No one's really helping them out. And you yourself feel like you're going crazy as well because you're watching or you're witnessing what they're witnessing. You're seeing what they're seeing. I will say that Smile 2, the craziness felt more amplified because of the fact that Sky was a famous artist. Now, I can't say that I personally know what it feels like to be this famous, but I think it's pretty easy to see that having her life is crazy. You know, she has to meet these deadlines. She has interviews, paparazzi, all eyes are on her. Her mother is constantly behind her back, pushing her and pushing her to perform, to sing, to do all of this. So you already felt the tension with Sky and her life. And that's why I felt like in Smile 2, the craziness felt more amplified. Now, another similarity is that both Rose and Sky have traumatic past that resurface because of the entity, right? The entity latches on to Rose and Sky, and because of that, they begin to relive their past that they're trying to forget. For Rose is her mother who overdosed on pills when she was just a kid, and for Sky, you have the incident where her boyfriend dies due to a car accident that we're involved in, right? I feel like both Rose and Sky felt like they were at fault because of this, and for that reason, they feel that much more crazier. And we can't forget about the jump scares. The jump scares in both of these films were great. They got me multiple times throughout the film. In the first one, right, the jump scare that got me was when she was listening to the audio and she hears something in the audio, and so she keeps on rewinding back. And there's that moment where it just gets extremely quiet. And anytime there is a quiet scene in a horror movie, you know there's a jump scare. But the jump scares in this film, in both of these films, are creative. Sometimes they're expected, sometimes they're not. And I think they did a great job with the jump scares. Not like many of these other horror films where they just throw jump scares at you non-creative ways. So that was a great scene too. You also have the look behind you scene, right, in Smile, where Rose is on the phone with the operator, and the operator first asks her, like, are you sure you're by yourself or no one's in the house with you? At that point, you know there's something up. And then, not to mention, she then asks her to look behind her. She says, look behind you. In any horror movie, horror game, when they tell the protagonist to look behind them, you know there's something up. But in that scene, there's no jump scare. She snaps out of it. She realizes that she was only hallucinating everything. And so that's what I mean by sometimes you expect a jump scare and sometimes you don't. Now, in Smile 2, my favorite jump scare was when Gemma was sleeping over with Sky. Sky has a nightmare. She wakes up. She looks over at Gemma and they start talking. Gemma says something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was off the wall. You know there was something up. She's just laying there. Next thing you know, her eyes open up. I think her mouth opens up as well, and lights come out, and you hear a car horn. That jump scare really got me. I thought that was creative. I think I've seen that before, but definitely a jump scare that got me. And you also got the scene where Sky is in front of the mirror and all of a sudden her boyfriend's right behind her in the mirror, but then when she looks back, he's not there. Then you have the boyfriend making her smile through the mirror. And so that was another great jump scare that really got me. So these two films really had good jump scares. And finally, both of these films, at the very end of the film, you have the entity entering the protagonist's mouth. I felt like Smile had a creepier ending. The way that the entity or demon or monster, whatever you want to call it, enters Rose's mouth, you have the side view. And he stretches her mouth down and he starts to like crawl into it. That was the freakiest scene I've ever seen in a while. That would be something that would terrify me as a kid. It scares me now watching it, and I thought that was a creepier scene than in Smile 2, where in Smile 2 you see the entity coming out of Sky herself, who's on stage, and then she enters the real Sky, but you get the POV of the monster and you see her mouth stretching, which was still freaky, was still scary, but I felt like Smile, the first Smile, had a creepier look to it. Now we got the differences. In Smile, Rose, she knew she had to confront the demon. There was nowhere else she could have gone. Her own fiance, or was it her? I think it was a fiance. Her own fiance didn't want to be a part of it. Her ex-husband or boyfriend at first didn't want to help her out, but he eventually comes at the end. So she decides to go to her mom's house, and that's where she confronts her mother. In Smile, it just felt like Rose kind of surrendered to the entity, and she was just going to sacrifice herself because she wanted to end it with herself, right? She didn't want the chain to continue, so she decided to go to her mother's house and confront the entity by herself. That way no one else would get infected by it. Whereas Smile 2, Sky meets Morris, this guy whose brother died because of it, and now he's trying to stop the curse. They have a way of defeating it, or at least Morris does, is by momentarily killing Sky until it leaves and then reviving her, right? So in Smile 2, Sky was actually trying to confront and end the curse, or defeat the curse, right? Not just end it, but defeat it. But it was all an illusion. And talking about these two, I felt like Smile 2 had a better plot twist. The entire time, Gemma was the entity, and she was basically sleeping over Sky's house the entire time. She didn't know about it, or obviously no one knows that Gemma was the entity until the very end. I thought it was a great plot twist. There wasn't much of a plot twist on Smile, so I felt like Smile 2 had a greater plot twist. Now real quick, I want to talk about some of the memorable scenes that really stood out to me. The first one is from Smile, the long neck jump scare, where Rose's sister comes out to the car that Rose is in, and she kind of just stands there, and next you know her neck just bends down and she's just smiling. I thought it was pretty funny, but it was creepy as well. Another creepy scene from Smile is the entity as Rose's mother in a doorway. Rose ends up talking to her mother through her hallucinations. She realizes that it's not her mother and it's the entity, so she walks out, closes the door, and slowly backs up. And the entity, basically as her mother, opens up the door, and she's not a regular sized mother. She is this very tall, freaky looking demon thing that comes out. The way it comes out was just creepy as hell. If I would have seen that, I would have jumped out the window and just ran, never stopped. Now in Smile 2, one of the scenes that stood out was the dancing group Smile. Sky was in a room, and you have the dancing group or crew that is in her closet at first and is just smiling at her. And so the entity is multiple people, or the dance group, in this scene. And the way they just stare at her and smile at her, and they just get closer as she looks away. And at the end, they obviously capture her. And I thought that was a great scene. And yet another creepy scene in this film, or Smile 2, is the past Skye, the Skye with black hair, confronts the Skye in the freezer, in the pizzeria, the pizza place. And she has these bulging eyes. I mean, this film did a great job of making creepy faces, creepy monsters, creepy situations. They did a great job of really delivering us a uncanny movie. And this is one of the reasons, or this is one of the scenes that delivered. So those were the memorable scenes that really stood out to me. Ultimately, I felt like Smile 2 was more theatrical. Again, everything felt amplified because of the fact that Skye is, or was, a famous artist. Yes, Smile had a darker mood. It had a darker vibe to it, and the ending was a bit creepier, but Smile 2 definitely beats Smile 1, or the first Smile, I should say. Again, both films were great, but Smile 2 takes the prize in my book. Now, some questions I have for you guys. Do you guys think that Morris is a real person, or was it just an illusion? And if he is real, do you think that he will eventually defeat the entity, at least in Smile 3? Because I know Smile 3 is coming out. The ending of Smile 2, you have the entire audience that witnesses Skye kill herself. So are they all infected with the curse, or does the entity just choose one person out of the entire audience, right? If the entire audience is infected with this curse, that is going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing horror film. Smile 3 I'm talking about. Because obviously they're all going to pretty much die. Will he be able to defeat this entity, or will there be more Smiles apart for Smile 3? That is it. I'm excited for Smile 3. I know it's going to come out. Let me know if you guys agree with my pick between the two. But that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time I finish reading a book or finish watching a movie.